Hey guys, so hope everybody's doing well. Thought today we'd take a look at just some of the books I've read recently. Obviously, haven't had a chance to swing by the store too often. My local store just reopened to customers, I'd say about a week or so ago, and they limit the amount of people in there, and they're asking everybody to wear masks. So I think I've been in there once since the reopening. Plan to hopefully go today to just see what's in my safer. But obviously we're all staying home a bit more than before. So these are a lot of things I've picked up, either on eBay or a lot of them are just from quite some time ago. And without going to the store on a regular basis, it's a lot easier to catch up on all those things that have been taking up boxes and you haven't had a chance to get to. So this first one is DC Primal Age. It's a 100-page giant. This was released along with some Funko toys, which were basically, it was DC superheroes made out to look like He-Man characters. So if you've seen them, they were a Target release, and this happened to be a comic book that they put out with it. I only ever saw the comic at Target, $10, but since it was a 100-page giant, I wasn't going to complain. And if you give me some He-Man figures that are dressed up like Batman and Superman, you've basically hit all the nostalgia buttons. So I don't know if you guys picked up any of these figures. I think I got 2 or 3. Sometimes if you see them now, they're on clearance. But Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. I got one of the Batmans and an Aquaman, and they're totally He-Man sculpts from the 80s, just with dressed up in the DC suits. So that one was I'd say that book was serviceable. It's a lot of jobbers in there. You kind of recognize the names. It's like, oh, I've seen him fill in for people. So that DC Primal book, you're not in it for the read. This is Hellboy and the BPRD, Saturn Returns, which was a 3-parter. I really like these Hellboy flashback books, with BPRD ending last year and Hellboy ending with it. Right now, as far as the Hellboy universe, you really just get these flashback cases, which are a good way of putting Hellboy and the BPRD into situations and letting us have a read where Mignola doesn't need to care about ongoing storylines or too much in the way of continuity. So this was a good read. He still keeps track of continuity to an extent. So he has Liz in this book as like a teenager. It's just after the BPRD has had her start living with them, and so he fills in some of those gaps as far as what we've seen. Obviously, in the main Hellboy and BPRD universe, you get introduced to Liz when she's a young adult, and he fills in the backstory with dialogue and maybe flashbacks, but not long pieces of story. So this is a good way to kind of fill in those gaps. Here's Liz as a teenager for a chunk of time. I just really enjoy the Hellboy universe as a whole, and happy to have that ongoing. This is Ultraman. I'm a fan of Ultraman the character, and if you've seen the Netflix series, that was really good. Picked up a few Ultraman comics on eBay. They were going for cheap. They're from Nemesis Comics, which I know I've seen in some comic, YouTube videos here and there where they mention defunct companies from the 90s. Not the best written stuff. Pretty bad as far as writing goes. The first couple issues of this were actually by, I believe it was Scott McDuffie. Or was it Scott McDuffie? I know the last name was McDuffie. He's the guy who later did like Justice League for a little while and Static Shock. So there were a couple issues written by him, but then the rest were written by guys who I haven't heard of. The art is by Ernie Colon, who I know was a old Marvel guy back in the 60s. I think he was doing like inks for Jack Kirby, and I want to say I've seen some videos where, basically he would just slather on inks and Jack didn't like what he did. So, not the best art and story, but just picked it up for the character. This is Tom Strong. Tom Strong is a Alan Moore creation. If you read the Terrifics from DC, he was featured prominently in the first few issues. He looked, I remember when I got those issues, I liked the look of the character. It was drawn by Dale Eaglesham, so, Dale Eaglesham's stuff always looks great. But, Tom Strong as a character looked interesting, so bought a lot off eBay that had a whole bunch of issues. I'd say the first 5 to 10 are by Alan Moore, and then he kind of has a rotating crew come on. Most of the covers are by Chris Sprouse, but you have, like in this one, it's got quite a few different creators on here, and basically the Alan Moore issues more or less just set up the backstory in his world, and then it's like he jumped right off and started doing whatever he wanted after that. This one's by Jeff Johns, which I found surprising. This is from 2004, so this is before Jeff Johns was really taking off. This is probably around the time when he was doing JSA and stuff like that. There's another one. You can tell none of these ones I picked up I don't think are by Alan Moore. I think this was all after his issues, but pretty interesting character. He's a little retro, kind of a 50s type of thing where it's like, strong, smart guy. And science is everything up. But kind of the best correlation I could do is maybe, if Mr. Fantastic had the things, super strength and no bendy powers and kind of solved everything with a combination of his intellect and strength. This is Uncanny X-Men 174. I had bought a collection off a guy about 14 years ago, and just now getting around to being able to sit down and read them. This is around the time that Scott was dating and then engaged to Madeline Pryor, who was the kind of she looks like Jean Grey, she talks like Jean Grey, but this was after the Phoenix had died, so this is issue where he proposes and then he asks if, are you Jean Grey reincarnated? What's going on? So, for anybody who knows Uncanny X-Men, those are some classic storylines, and, happy to have picked those up. And then this one's Uncanny's 172. This is Wolverine almost getting married to Mariko. So this is the X-Men traveling to Japan to visit Wolverine before the marriage. And of course, crazy stuff happens because they're mutants and Wolverine's involved. This has Silver Samurai in it. And from reading it, it seemed like he was a new character in this issue. I don't know if this is his first actual appearance, or if maybe it had some appearance before, because he's kind of shown in shadow, and then they show him, in all his Silver Samurai glory. So I might have to look up and see if that's his first actual appearance. I could see that going either way, because it was obvious from reading this that it was, maybe an issue or two into this storyline. So I don't know if he had been in maybe the prior issue, but that's a, awesome cover with the wedding invite and the sword going through, and he even has a note telling Nightcrawler to bring some beer. But that's what I've been reading through recently. Like I said, hopefully I'll be able to go to the store today and pick up what's in my saver. I have cut down quite a bit because basically we're expecting a new little one, and I had to clean out my office, which was where most of my comics were sitting. So, after getting rid of about 15 short boxes worth of stuff and moving things into storage, it wouldn't make any sense for me to be buying, 15, 20 issues a week, because eventually I would just refill those 15 boxes and then I'd be in the same situation. So that's it for me today, guys. Hopefully be able to film in a week or two as things go here when I get time. Let me know what you guys are reading, and I hope you're all doing well.